Buenas tardes a todos. Me llamo Denis Batalov, y soy un arquitecto de soluciones trabajando con clientes en toda la región IMEA para ayudarles a moverse infraestructura de tecnologías informáticas a Amazon, a la nube de Amazon Web Services. Ahora les mostraré una demo de las instancias Spot de Amazon EC2 y más tarde la demo del servicio de aprendizaje de máquinas o Amazon Machine Learning Service. Originalmente yo soy ruso, pero hace 30 años tuve una oportunidad a vivir en Cuba y aprendí un poco de español. Tengo buenos recuerdos de viajar en las guaguas y comer las frutabombas, palabras típicas cubanas. Pero por desgracia no practico mis habilidades de hablar español más y mucho menos la terminología técnica, y por eso no voy a torturarles con mi español y seguiré presentar en inglés. Well, thank you. So this demo is going to be about the Spot instances, and I've put some stickers, by the way. As you exit, you can pick up some hearts, I love Spot stickers. Probably most of you at this point know about Spot or have heard about Spot instances, and this demo is really about kind of showing off or talking about the new features, but perhaps there are some people here who don't know about Spot or don't know much about Spot, and so I'm going to kind of make a short introduction as well. Generally speaking, every time you launch an instance in EC2, that instance is launched momentarily for you, and it therefore must be available, sitting idly, waiting for your request to be launched, right? Therefore, we must have a lot of instances kind of sitting idly out there, not being used, and that's a shame, right? That's not very efficient. So Amazon came up with this idea of kind of selling to you that unused capacity at a significant discount, and that's how the Spot market was created effectively. So the discounts are quite significant. Just to show you an example, if you haven't seen it, let's see, this is a console. Oops. Anyways, let me make this a little larger, as I know it's kind of hard to see in the back, and we can zoom something. So, for instance, if we look at the standard kind of pricing for EC2 instances, you can see an example of C3 extra large, 7.5 gigs of RAM, and it's about 24 cents per hour, right? So that's on an on-demand price. If we go into the console, into the Spot request section, we could look at the pricing history and take a look at the price for the same instance. That was C3 extra large, I think. We could see that today it was pretty much below 5 cents, right, throughout this day. So that's excellent, right? 24 cents versus 5 cents or less than 5 cents. Great discounts to be had. So how does this work, right? There must be some catch here, and of course there is a catch in that you bid. So we have a spot market, and different people, different accounts bid for these resources, and they do this by setting a maximum price. And if the spot market price goes above that maximum price of yours, then the instant that's given to you is taken away, and you only have 2 minutes of a notice time to kind of save your state and return later when the prices drop, right? So while you set the bid to be the maximum, you're willing to pay. Normally, you actually pay below that maximum, right? Because you have the spot price, which is formed by the totality of all the resources that are available and all the requests for spot resources that are coming in. So it's okay to set the maximum price higher. In fact, some people set it even above the on-demand price because generally speaking, it lets you pass some short-term spikes and retain the resources, but generally on average, you're going to pay a lot less money anyways. So that's all great, but with this catch, it sounds like it's really hard to use these spot instances. And there's a myth out there that it's only for specialized workloads, like maybe transcoding video, maybe running, Hadoop clusters with these machines. So some background processing, and if the instances are taken away from you, no big deal. We'll launch on demand instead, or we'll wait until the price comes down, right? But that's a myth. What we want to tell everybody, the message is there are actually good ways of using spot instances for a lot of workloads, even for web servers that are serving traffic. You can do smart things with auto-scaling groups so that initially it's the spot group that's going to try to scale, and if there's no spot resource available, the on-demand group is going to kick in and take over, and there will be no visibility of any interruptions, disruptions to the end user. And what we're seeing is that this great resource of spot instances still remains significantly underutilized. And we'd like to educate people as much as we can about that great resource. And we've also built some tooling to help people take advantage of this better. So there have been, in the past few months, some new features that were added to the spot instances. And what I wanted to do is kind of show what these are. And the first thing that was done is we've launched something called the Spot Bid Advisor. And it's a very simple but kind of encouraging tool to use. And I'm going to try to open it up. In fact, well, I forgot to open a tab with it, but let's just type Spot Bid Advisor. There it is. So what you see here is some indication as to which types of instances are fairly available. They're not in significant demand. So if you ask for them on the spot market, it's very unlikely that they will be taken away from you. And the one interesting idea here is that you may decide that you need this particular type of instance. You've tested your workloads on it. It works great. So you go and just by default ask for that particular type of instance on the spot market. But in fact, there could be often situations where a much more powerful instance out there costs cheaper than the one that you've specified, right? So why not grab a more powerful instance, right, and pay less money? And one particular thing that happens is that a lot of instances from the previous generations of machines that we had a while back are sort of gradually becoming less popular, but they're still fairly powerful out there, and they're not in great demand. We can see here in this list in the advisor tool, it lists you instance types and tells you, what kind of resources they have in terms of CPUs and available memory, but also gives you the likelihood, right, of them being taken away from you, and it shows as very low in here. And it shows also the average kind of savings you're going to have over the on-demand price. Well, in fact, we can show all the instances. And look at this. CR1 8 extra large. Again, previous generation instance, and 244 gigabytes of memory. And it's actually sitting there. You can get great savings of 91% off on-demand price. Why not use it? Right? So this tool is kind of a great start. It's using these price histories that I've shown you in the graph to kind of show which pools and basically each instance and each availability zone in each region forms, in a way, a special capacity pool, right, of these instance types. And each one of these capacity pools effectively is its own market in the spot market. And you should kind of look at all these other pools. Okay, but how do I ask for instances of different kinds? Well, that's why we have something else called Spot Fleet that was launched recently. So instead of a typical situation where you go to the console or API and say, I just want 5 instances of this type on the spot market, this is my bid price, go, right? Now you can actually specify, C3 X large is good for me, but C4 X large is also fine for me, or CR1 8 extra large is perfect as well. So whichever one of these instances is available, I'm okay with it, right? So that's the idea of a fleet, that you can supply these different specifications and the instances will be provided to you. Okay, but beyond that, as a next step, something else was done, and I'll show you an example of using this in the Spot console, where you can now specify parameters and express your Spot fleet, not in terms of numbers of instances, but in terms of some abstract weights, some abstract parameters. So for example, let's say you wanted to have in your fleet X number of CPU cores, right? That's a requirement for you. I want to launch, 100 cores. I don't care what combination of instances I get those 100 cores in, but that's the compute capacity that I require. So what you can do is you can assign to every instance in your fleet and every instance type a certain number of these units of virtual capacity, right? So a multi-core machine having 32 cores maybe will have 32 virtual units, right? A machine with 1 core will have 1 unit, and so on. So now that you've defined these weights, you can just specify the number. I want, 100 cores. I want 200 cores. And the system will automatically figure out, okay, what are you willing to pay per core? This is your unit. So how much are you willing to pay per 1 unit? And what's your maximum bid? And you set that up, and it's going to go and try to find a combination of instances out there that collectively will provide you the number that you need and at the lowest price that you desire. So that's great. In fact, it doesn't even need to be expressed, this unit, virtual unit, doesn't need to be expressed in things like CPU or memory or amount of disk space. They could be completely virtual in the sense that you have your own application. You went ahead and tested this application on a particular set of instance types. And per your own benchmarking, you realize that this type of instance has this amount of units, right? And this other instance has a larger or smaller amount of units. And again, then collectively you express the total number of units that you desire as a result. So, cool. And now, in addition to the Spot fleet and APIs, you have a specialized Spot console that allows you to specify all these things in kind of a visual fashion. Of course, everything is and can be done via APIs. So let's see how we can do it with the Spot console. In fact, if you go to your regular place, Spot requests, there is this little tiny pop-up that kind of shows up. And if you click on it, it says, oh, try me. Try it out. This is the new Spot console that's available. Do you guys see this in the back, by the way? Should I kind of blow it up? OK, being close to visible out there. Let's see. There's also this magic of a Macintosh thing that I can do, right? Like doing this. Woo! And then zoom back. OK. So this is a previous Spot request that I've done. And by the way, there's a convenient link for the Spot bid advisor you have here that you can select. OK. What can we do? Request Spot instances. And as usual, you can specify the standard stock AMIs, or you can use a custom AMI. The capacity unit by default is in terms of instances, so that's kind of the standard old way of thinking about things. That's fine. But let's try to customize our unit. And in this particular case with the console, it's not like this totally made up virtual unit. You're allowed a selection of CPUs, memory, or storage. But again, remember, everything can be done through APIs, and APIs generally are much more flexible than the console, because the UI takes a while for it to catch up, and sometimes, quite frankly, the number of combinations is becoming really hard to build an attractive UI. In any case, here, let's assume we want memory now. We talked about CPUs. Let's say we actually wanted to have a certain amount of RAM for our application. So I don't really care what is the number of CPUs then, right? So I say my minimum is 1. But what I want for memory is, let's say there's some instances with 7.5. Oops. 7.5. Well, you can kind of see it there. And we don't care about the storage at all. This is the instant storage, the ephemeral storage. And now let's specify, so if each unit is 7 gigabytes of RAM, 7.5 gigabytes of RAM, right, then I can say something like 40 units. Is that right? What does that amount to? 320 gigabytes? No? Roughly? Anyways, so now, okay, let's set the unit price for our maximum bid. And so what should our price be? Well, if we take something like C3X large, it actually is the one that has 7.5 gigabytes of RAM for us. And remember that the price, on-demand price for this was 24 cents. And if we look at the current, we looked at the current market price, it was about less than 5 cents. I think it was 4 point something. So let's do 5, right? So over here, we'll just say 5 cents. Let's see what happens, actually. Because, okay, it's okay for C3 large, but obviously, if this one is okay, the larger instances are also fine for us. So let's just go crazy here and add all of them. No reason to kind of, well, this is a graphics processor, and usually it's more expensive, so let's not worry about it too much. This is CR1 8 extra large I was talking about, so just keep on. No, G2 we don't want. H1. Anyways, I could probably stop here, but we've covered the whole gamut here. Fine. What you see also as little warnings is that if your unit is priced at 5 cents, then this machine over here only has 22 gigabytes of RAM. So that's only a handful of units, and if we basically, we have 3, right? 3 units per this machine, so the price should be 15 cents, our maximum price. But in fact, the system knows that its current spot market price is higher than 15 cents, so you're not going to get it anyways. So it just kind of gives you a hint. Perhaps you either select a higher per unit price so that this one is also included, or don't bother, just to, and in this case we actually are happy to exclude it because it's a specialized machine with a graphics processor, so we don't care. Anyways, it looks like everything is cool here. Is it correct? You can also specify it as a percentage of per on-demand price. And we'll hit next. I think I already had some roles specified. This is interesting. So the allocation strategy, just worth mentioning it. By default, lowest price actually should be picked because that's normally what you want. You want to achieve the lowest price. But this diversified feature was added fairly recently as well, where you say, okay, I don't really care about saving as much money as I could have. But what I do care about is stability of the pool, so that it's less frequent that resources are taken away from me, I still want the savings of the spot market, but I'm okay if it's not like the cutthroat absolute bottom prices. So you pick diversified, and then it's trying to grab instances from as many different types as it can to assemble your overall fleet, and in that case add some extra stability. So that's kind of an interesting feature, but we'll pick the lowest price for now, and no preference for availability zones. I really am not going to log in into these machines. You can also set up the advanced things like the user data and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to review. Oh, like I said, I don't plan to log into it, so it's okay. And you can also download a JSON config for this, so you can later on call this from the APIs as well and launch. Okay. So that's cool. The spot fleet is sort of starting. If we go to the instances section, at some point we should start seeing some more instances being launched. This is some old instance that I have that is in the stopped state. And it may take a little bit for these instances to be generated. So while it's trying to do this, let me talk to you about another feature that we've also launched, and I think I have it somewhere in the slides, although I'm kind of afraid to open PowerPoint now. Maybe I shouldn't. It's very simple. It's called Spot Block. So the idea is this. Often people want to run clusters, compute clusters, where they really don't want the interruptions, right? They want all the resources to be available. But they also know that they run these, they use these instances for a fairly short period of time. And so that's where the kind of balance comes in. That's where the trade-off is. We allow you to say, okay, I'm going to run my instances for maximum 6 hours. So you select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. And we promise to you that we'll not take away the resources. They're just as good as the on-demand machines. You're given to you, and you can run them, and everything is guaranteed for 6 hours tops. But the caveat is the savings are not as high, right? So we're telling you that you're going to save 30 to 45% off the on-demand price. And if you're doing this off-peak hours, you're going to save an additional 5% on top of that. So you could get to like half of the on-demand price, which is still pretty good, right? And you can run your high-performance compute cluster knowing that no resources are going to be taken away. If whatever you have like a saved state, everything is going to be worked okay. So that's pretty much it. Let's see. It's still. Oh, there it is. Ah, pretty cool. See, it's already starting the CR. I'll use the zoom feature again. It's CR1 8x large. These are the previous generation machines. So all of a sudden we have two machines, 244 gigs each. So we've satisfied our requirement. In fact, we have more than we need. But you know, we cannot saw the machine in half and give you just half of that one. But it's cheap, right? Because each, like, how much do these cost? Well, we can take a look, right? If we look at spot requests, pricing history, where is it? CR 8 extra large. So it's also interesting that in two availability zones, the price is actually well below 40 cents per hour, but we're only launching two machines, right? So basically you're running this for, so what do we have? 33 cents, right? For 66 cents an hour, we're getting our cluster of 500 gigabytes of RAM. That's pretty good. And we note that in some availability zone, the actual price is higher. So that's something also that you could exploit, and the system does exploit as well. It knows that in the red, red is just by accident that it's red. in color, it's EU West 1C is the kind of expensive availability zone at this point for whatever reason. people decided to request this resource there. There's fewer availability. And so in the C zone, we're gonna avoid that C zone. And in fact, if we look at our instances being launched, it's in the 1A, 1A, right? So it's launching them in the cheaper availability zone for you. That's all, folks. I have another demo later today, machine learning. So come to that, grab the stickers. Yeah, they're gimmicky, but they're hearts, love spot, love savings. So that's all.